We'll be focusing on junipers today. This Parsoni Juniper. It was trimmed a little over a month ago for the second time this year, and we're asking the question, just what can you do at this time of the year? This is another one of the Parsonas that was trimmed back a little over a month ago, and this is the discussion of today, this procumbens.
Okay, Terry, this is your procumbens nana. We're going to talk first about the health of it. You have no brown tips on this thing, so it's looking very good. The color of it is good. The old foliage is a nice darker green. The newer foliage is a lighter green. You have plenty of whips growing on the tree. And Jason Schley, in his video on juniper health, says when you have whips growing, the tree is very, very healthy. The root structure is good. And what you're doing is you're piling on wood when you have all of these whips growing. It's thickening the trunk to support it. And it's giving you options for the future as far as styling as well. What you could do at this time of the year would be to get rid of things that you don't need for future styling. That would be the things that might be growing straight down on the bottom of your pads, things that are in the elbows, the crotches. You could remove those. That's just energy that's being wasted on things that are not going to help your tree in the future. So as you develop your pads, you don't want your pads to be just two-dimensional, so you take the things off that are growing on the bottom, pull those off, cut them off, that grow straight down. But the things on the top, you want to develop a rounded top to your pad, so don't take all of those that are growing straight up. Just cut them back a little bit, shorten them to give a nice rounded pad. And I wouldn't, at this point in time, I would just let your shoots, your whips grow out as long as they want to, because that's thickening up foliage in the back behind it. As far as styling, you have lots of opportunities for an informal upright. Putting it in this manner, you have opportunities, I think, for a literati style, where you have a nice trunk with a lot of bend in it, going up, curving back on itself. So it has great opportunity for that style. So I think you've done good with it so far. Just let it grow out. But once again, get rid of things you don't need so the energy is focused where you do need it.
So this coming spring, would you just cut it back some or repot it into a larger pot so that the trunk might grow even more? Or
I think in the spring you're going to make a determination on what style you want and then prune accordingly. If you're going to do a literati style, you may not need these lower branches at that point in time, so you could remove those and focus your energy just on your literati style branches that you select for it. You may, if you want it to get to be thicker and longer, you could repot it. I'm not sure it's necessary, but you may want to consider shortening. Most literatis are in somewhat short pots when they're finally potted, short roundish pots or oval pots, mostly round. So I would consider maybe going into a shallower pot, taking maybe some of the root ball off of it. Don't do a whole lot on the top, just work on the root ball over this next year and get your plant tree ready for going into its bonsai pot in the future. So make a decision on your style, number one. Number two, in the spring, then cut branches that you don't need for your style. And number three, then do some minor root shortening. Depending on how much you're going to do on the top determines what you can do in the bottom. If you're doing minor stuff on the top, then you can cut roots. If you're going to cut a lot of roots, then you can't do too much on the top.
do you think that doing something later in or early September would be profitable for it or not, other than the clean out?
I think just the clean out. Junipers tend to have a second dormant season in the high heat. The growth almost slows down and stops. This appears like it's continuing to grow, So it may not be dormant yet.
I see Malcolm has a pot over there.
That's kind of the pot size that you might want to work
I
towards.
think he's suggesting that we go wider.
You could go
but
wider,
more
to get your
shallow.
roots spread out. Work your nabari at that point in time. Rake your roots out, get them going out like this.
Well, I noticed that there's kind of a fattening in part of the trunk area. I'm not sure I can get in there to see it, but you see it right there. Should we think about maybe doing a shari on this tree?
You could do a shari to reduce that reverse taper. It's very possible. You have dead wood here, so you could do your shari from here up and around. You could take it up this way if you wanted to on the side or the top. Bring it around. You have plenty of room to do it. Plenty of visible room that you'd be able to see it.
Okay. Now, a question that I have is that the trunk is fattening up everywhere, but it still seems to be a little weak right at the base. It's just not as fat as I picture it.
Have you looked down deep in it?
It is pretty much right at the top there where the root system is.
Okay.
So that's why I'm letting all the branches grow, but is it better?
Well, then it would be better in the spring when you repot it to spread your roots out and raise it up a little bit. So where it's meeting the soil, it's kind of growing out like this. That'll give it a natural, thicker taper. The roots will fatten up because they're above the soil.
Okay.
And it'll give you a fatter root base. Make sense?
So in the spring we repot it, raise it up, put it into this new shallower pot, but wider.
Yeah, I'd consider going
inside.
somewhere about this level. I think that's probably about 4 inches.
Okay. All right then. Well, that's some very good suggestions, and for you members out there, we'll be talking about this more at the upcoming meeting in September for the Cypress Lakes Bonsai Club. Signing out.